So we are about halfway through the season, and the contenders are shaping out nicely. Let's talk about all the teams that are looking to make the playoffs in this season. Starting out with the Minnesota Lynx, they have the best record in the league, and they have been killing it. And they didn't have Nafisa Collier, the best player. They didn't have Nafisa Collier for all but one of the games that they've played thus far, and they have the best record in the league. Yeah, they're killing it. They have the second best offense in the league. They have the second best defense in the league. From people that are smarter than me, they say that there are two all time defenses in this league right now, and that is the Minnesota Lynx and the Golden State Valkyries, which I will talk about next. But sticking with the Minnesota Lynx here, second in offense, second in defense, they are fourth in true shooting percentage. Olivia Miles has shaken out and looked like one of the best players in the association, looking like an MVP candidate, one of the best pick and roll players already in this association. And they still have, not counting Nafisa Collier, four players averaging above 15 points per game, which are Olivia Miles, Natasha Howard, Courtney Williams, and Kayla McBride. Of course, three of them were named as All Stars this season, and I saw some people say that Kayla McBride should have been an All Star this year as well. And also, talking about Kayla McBride is kind of, her defense has kind of gone under the radar this year because the Minnesota Lynx as a whole defensively are awesome with their shell defense and then rotating out to their shooters. And of course, we have to give credit to a Natasha Howard, a Nia Coffey, two of them who are looking to make awesome all defensive cases. But also, Kayla McBride has been the primary POA defender on those perimeter threats. And so, Kayla McBride, her defense has been really solid this season. Courtney Williams also named an All Star this season, and she has been shooting 46% on mid ranges, according to Basketball Reference. Oh, yeah, all the data I'm referencing is from Basketball Reference. If you have an issue with the data I bring up, it's from Basketball Reference, not me. Don't blame me. Don't blame me. Please. Please don't. But Courtney Williams, she's been shooting like 46% on 10 to 16, as well as from 16 to the 3 point line. So short mid ranges, long mid ranges. Courtney Williams has been shooting 46%. And we know how important that is because a lot of her shot diet is from mid range. So she has been an awesome mid range shooter. She has been an awesome player in general, being the secondary ball handler, playmaker off of Olivia Miles. And the Minnesota Lynx are just a machine that keeps on going. They are third in offensive rebounding rate as well. And Natasha Howard is up there in terms of lead of the league in offensive rebounding per game. She might still be second. I'm not sure where that is right now, but she was up there last time I checked. She's probably still there. And so the Minnesota Lynx, like I said, they're a machine. They keep on trudging. Now, going on to some areas of weak point for them. And these are going to be a little nitpicky because they are still, like I said, the best team in the league. And they were without their best player for pretty much all the season thus far. So these are going to be just a little nitpicky, but maybe some areas that they can look out for. Overall size, this still is not the biggest team in the league. You know, they play bigger than maybe their listed size, but otherwise they still can be, I think, susceptible to some of their size limitations. And Emma Shakova getting injured certainly didn't help that. But Natasha Howard, Fee, Nia Coffey, they are forward sized, certainly. And so I think they can be susceptible to maybe some of those bigger players, some of those players that love rebounding as well, because they are 10th in defensive rebound percentage. So I think that's a slight indication that they can be caught lacking on the defensive glass and giving up extra opportunities to teams who can take advantage of that. And then lastly, how much do they trust the bench? And B coming back certainly helps because now Nia Coffey comes to the bench, and we already know what you get with Nia Coffey, the elite defense and improved 3 point shooting. And then Dorka has also just come back. So having Dorka back is a great help in that direction. But how much will you trust the Dorka, Kosu, Delaire, Caldwell off the bench? And, you know, this is prior to Fee coming back, but I saw some Lynx fans be not so happy about some of the bench depth that they have. Nia Coffey sliding back to the bench certainly does help that. And in a playoff rotation, many people say that you only need to go 6 or 7 deep. Haha, 6, 7. But if you only need to go 6 or 7 deep, the bench depth, it becomes less of an issue in that direction, but they still do need to have some spot minutes there. So who are the players that you trust after Nia Coffey for the bench? Now, moving on to the Golden State Valkyries. The Golden State Valkyries are the next best record in the league. And they are the second elite all-time defense that I hear are in the league right now. And you could see it, especially with the personnel that they have. They have the best defensive rating in the league, which is at 102 defensive rating, 6.8 points below the current league average. Like I said, the personnel, Gabby Williams, Veronica Burton, Kia Stokes, they are awesome defensively. Gabby Williams is one of the players that have a DPOY case. Veronica Burton definitely has an all defensive case. Kia Stokes per minute is one of the best defensive players out there. Natalie Nakase, awesome defensive coach. Their defense is immaculate. Alongside the defense being elite, Gabby Williams has stepped up with an offensive leap, especially so as a 3-point shooter, because on the highest volume of her career, she is shooting right now, I think, 34% from three, which maybe isn't the greatest percentage, but certainly an improvement from where she was before and is necessary, and now fills out greatly what the identity for the Golden State Valkyries offense is, because we know the Valkyries get up the most threes in the league, and so Gabby Williams being a good 3-point shooter definitely helps in that direction. Also, because, like I said, with their identity, with putting up the 3-point shooting, they are tied for fifth in 3-point percentage with the Liberty Fire and Wings at 34.7%. So they're getting up the most threes and they're shooting a good percentage of them. They are fifth in offensive rebounding per game and sixth in offensive rebounding percentage. So they also crash the glass and try and give themselves extra opportunities. The Valkyries are one of the best hustle teams in the league, certainly. In addition to that, they have great sixth and seven women off the bench in a Janelle Salon, who is probably going to win six women, and then Caitlin Chen, who has absolutely improved a lot this season, and her rim pressure is certainly needed and has helped the Valkyries when a Veronica Burton or someone has a bad game. Caitlin Chen can come in, be an absolute spark, get to the basket at will, be really, really good for them. So those are really necessary for the Valkyries offense. Because there are some concerns about the playoff offense for the Golden State Valkyries. And of course, we know that Janelle Salon and Cecilia Zandalicini can be immaculate tough shot takers and makers. And of course, we know Gabby Williams is a really good slasher and can get to the basket. And that can especially so help out with the 3-point maxing that goes on with the Valkyries offense. Still, though, they don't have a tier 1 creator for them. And by tier 1 creator, I'm referring to an Asia Wilson, a Brianna Stewart, a Paige Beckers, and maybe you could argue they don't have a tier 2. Still, though, they don't have a definitive player that's gonna be like, get me the ball, get out of the way, and will live with whatever X person puts up. No, this is very much a by committee. We'll see who has it going, or we're gonna mismatch attack. I just worry maybe in situations where they won't be able to mismatch attack, how viable is that playoff offense, especially so, and we've seen it in stretches this season where Veronica Burton has kind of been underwhelming as a scorer, and we know that she is a really good floor general and passer playmaker. Still, though, the scoring threat is vital to keep the defense honest, especially so as a passer playmaker. And so Veronica Burton having some of those scoring woes or issues in a playoff setting, that's going to be a bit, worrisome. Additionally, even though Gabby Williams has had an offensive leap, Gabby and Veronica Burton are currently, I believe, below league average true shooting percentage. So they're not the most efficient scorers. So, like I said, I just worry sometimes about their offense and clutch time offense. Their defense, yeah, their defense, there is no issue with the defense. However, I do worry because of their issues there. And we also know they are first team, all motor, all hustle in a playoff setting when everyone is going hard, like their lives are on the line. I do wonder how much so that they're still going to get some of those opportunities. And well, I still think they're going to get some of those offensive rebounds, those steals, but when everyone's trying their hardest, how much will they be able to capitalize on the advantages that they have? Now, moving on to the aces. They're pros. They have Asia Wilson, best player in the world. Nah, for real. They have a great big three with Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray. Jackie Young, one of the best second options in the league. Chelsea Gray has shown to be a playoff riser, despite how sometimes she may look in the regular season. She has a track record now of showing up in the playoffs, and that's just kind of undeniable. Melissa Smith has also set out a really good MIP case. So she built on last season and has become a really good play finisher, rebounder, and is really fit into the fourth woman that the Aces can rely upon. And because of the aforementioned big three that they do have, they are one of the best crunch time offenses. You do just trust the Aces to have a really good shot at closing the game out when they have Chelsea Gray, one of the most clutch performers in WNBA history. And then Asia Wilson, also just one of the best scorers ever. And then Jackie Young, like I said, one of the best second options. They are third in offensive rating and second in overall true shooting percentage. Those are the pros with their team, and especially and like I said, did I mention they have Asia Wilson? When you have the best player in the world, you have a chance. You have a chance when you have the best player in the world. However, because the bench depth is extremely, and I do mean extremely suspect, their offense will rely very heavily upon the big three performing at not maybe not all-time levels, but they need to perform at elite levels, basically at all times if they want to win a championship. The backup bigs with Cheyenne Parker Tyus and Bree Turner, they can have a good punch sometimes. Sometimes they also leave a lot to be desired. Jewel Lloyd, it's bleak. It's bleak. Jewel Lloyd, it's bleak. She kind of, yeah, no, she washed, very washed actually. uh, so yeah, their bench is very questionable. They did sign Justine Passat and Mai Yamamoto. We have yet to see Mai Yamamoto play a game yet, I believe. So I don't want to speak on her too much because we haven't seen her play a single game as a pro in this league. I mean, but yeah, right now there's no real spark off the bench. And then their defense, they can be really susceptible to just getting blitzed at points, especially so by high-powered offenses. They have 2 losses to the Wings. They have 2 losses now to the Fever as well. So they are the third best record in the league, but their defense at times has definitely looked questionable. And so against some of those elite offenses, you do worry that's like, can they keep up offensively if their defense at times is just not at the level that they need it to be, even if defensive rating wise they are a top 5 defense. Now moving on to the Dallas Wings. They have Paige Beckers. Yeah, that's about it. No, I'm just kidding. Their offense is really good. Exceptional potency with Jessica Shepard passing the ball to Paige, AZ, Arike, the off-ball movement that they have. Jose Fernandez has built a really good offense, and it's taking advantage of the fact that Jessica Shepard is one of the best rebounders in the league, and so in addition to cleaning the defensive glass, she can push in transition, find some of those players in transition. Owak is a really good weapon in transition as well, running the floor. And Jessica Shepard has also been really good as a mismatch attacker. However, that also kind of goes into maybe one of the weaknesses. Their defense is very questionable. Jessica Shepard is a very questionable big defensively, and pick and roll defense. It's just nah. It's just nah. There's blocking shots. That's a nah. We'll ignore the block she had in the All Star game, but there's a whole entire account. It's like, has Jessica Shepard recorded a block today? And I don't think, besides the All Star game block, which I mean, it doesn't even show up in the stat sheets. But besides that, I don't think she still has recorded a block so far on this season. So the defense really has to be covered up by Owak Kuir, by AZ Fudd, by Isaiah James, who Isaiah James maybe has been good as a POA defender, but even so, with having really great hands, having one of the best motors in the league, piling up stocks, the POA defense is something that you do worry about. The screen navigation is still a work in progress. So the defense for this team is it's gonna be tested a lot in a playoff setting. Also, I did forget to mention also one of the pros for this team. They just don't turn over the ball. They are first in turnover percentage, as in they limit turnovers. So turnover suppression. That's good. Going back to the cons though, also there has been some collective of Dallas Wings fans that are waiting on a potential Jessica Shepard playoff dropping. Um, I'm also looking out for it. Jessica Shepard has a good short mid range, really good finisher. Those scoring opportunities do also come off of a fair amount of mismatch attacking or exploiting defenses, kind of overextending to the off ball movement of the other players on the team. So going up against more length and more physicality, maybe some of those mismatch opportunities are taken away. And then she doesn't have a three ball. She doesn't have a long midi that she goes to a lot. So Jessica Shepard, potentially some playoff dropping there. And then Arike has been really inconsistent as an overall scorer. Maybe if you're really critical in her heyday, she has never been an efficient scorer, but you could always point to the volume that she does put up. This season, she has definitely been like a second option, and the volume has gone down, and the efficiency has still not been at a level that is not, I don't want to say acceptable, but the efficiency has not been at a level that you want to see out of a second option. So, with that in mind, how much do you trust the playoff offense? Because they will have Paige, but how much will Enrique be a factor? What will happen? How will defenses react to AZ putting the ball on the floor? The defense is questionable, and then you worry about how some of the other players can be taken away in a playoff setting. So, those are some of the issues or areas to watch out for the Dallas Wings. Moving on to the Indiana Fever, pros, yeah, CC and KM, they can churn out elite offenses. And despite all the chatter at the beginning of the season, they are the best offense in the league. They are first in true shooting. So despite many, maybe at times in the early part of the season, it doesn't look pretty. It doesn't gel correctly. It doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. They have the best offense in the league. Um, Maybe they slept walk to it. Maybe they didn't. But the showings where they are there offensively, they are crazy, and it shows. And numbers wise, it appears there. They just have a great dynamic with the big three. CC being the floor general facilitator, and you always worry about her three ball. And she has improved as a driver. Her free throw rate is really good, or her free throw rate is good, I think. Or she gets to the line. She gets to the line. That's all you need to know. KM, elite off ball, really good on ball, one of the fastest players in the league, just uber dynamic. And then AB just gives you that inside post presence while also improving as a 3-point shooter. And because of AB being an improved 3-point shooter, that increases her ability as a safety valve for the offense. And they also are just a really good team at cleaning the defensive glass. They reduce extra opportunities on the O boards for opposing teams. It's always good to end possession. Going on to the areas of weakness, because the big three are just like the only real creators on the team, everything has to run through them, which means they have to have. I'm not the first person. I actually stole this from some other people, but basically, the big three have to have all the answers. If they don't rise to the occasion against elite defenses, then there will be issues because no one else on the team besides maybe Ty Harris. Ty Harris has been looking good in the second half of the early part of the season as the next guard off the bench. However, Ty Harris is a backup, so the amounts of minutes that she'll play in a playoff setting still are going to be lower than like a starter caliber player. And so the big three, they need to drive elite offense, or at least one player has to have some of the answers, because we've seen like in a game against the Golden State Valkyries where their offense can just be shut off. In a potential matchup against the Valkyries, at least one of the players just needs to be able to get their game going offensively, because we know defensively, although they have a decent defensive rating, we know there are defensive issues on the team. Backcourt of Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark, defensively, we already know they're compromised. We already know defensively the team is compromised, and we already know that they don't have the real defensive infrastructure necessary to mitigate the issues that having those two as a starting backcourt presents. So the offense it just needs to perform at that high enough level. And so they just need to have pretty much all the answers. And Part of maybe what won't help them having all the answers is that they kind of sometimes have a turnover issue. They have the sixth most turnovers per 100 possessions. The only playoff teams with more are the Mystics and the Liberty, and we is very much so mentioned CC's turnover problems. So you just do hope that maybe in a playoff setting, those turnovers don't take an uptick when the defense maybe gets more physical and all the stuff that come with being in the playoffs. So that's also an issue that you will want to look out for. And also going back to their defense, they foul a lot. They are second in fouls per game and third in personal fouls for per 100 possessions. So they struggle at defending without fouling. That's also an issue that maybe can look out for. Foul trouble, especially so for the big three, that would not be good in a playoff set. That would not be good. Moving on, the Atlanta Dream. They are a great defensive team, and they can just have they could walk in for really, really good stretches for like a quarter or a half where they just lock in and shut the water off for an opposing team, especially so in the clutch. We saw it in the early part of the season against a team like the Mercury or Lynx, or we saw it in a stretch with the Fever, where they defensively can just lock in and keep the opposing team at bay. Ryan Howard and Angel Reese, amazing defenders. No notes, they're amazing. You can argue one or both of them for DPOI. Ryan Howard, I think, still like leads the league in steals, and Jordan Canada is a really good defensive playmaker with forcing turnovers. And I think they are the best team at turning you over. They lead the league in forced turnovers per 100 possession and opposing team turnover percentage. They're also the best team at cleaning the defensive glass and not allowing extra possessions for an offense. Bree Jones has just now come back, and in the very few minutes that she showcased so far, she already provides some really good safety for an offense, which the Dream have kind of needed, enforcing extra bodies and kickouts for better opportunities from three. They are first in offensive rebounding rate. They are second in free throw rate. They get to the line, and they get extra opportunities for themselves as well. However, because of the extra opportunities, that also showcases an issue with their first chance scoring opportunities, and their initial attempts at putting the ball in the basket can be a bit rough, and it shows in that they are 10th and 11th in true shooting percentage and effective field goal percentage. So their overall creation can sometimes be a bit because the best ball handler on the team is Jordan Canada, and then Atlanta Dream fans have definitely not been quiet about their concerns with Jordan Canada as the point guard on the team, potentially dribbling the ball too much, decision making overall, especially late game. Ryan Howard, I don't know if it's a handle issue or a decision making issue in terms of not being able to get to the certain spots at will. I personally think it's maybe a handle issue. That Ryan Howard's handle is not quite to the level that it needs to be in order to like get to certain spots at will. And then Arlisha's drives to the basket, are they gonna open up the game for others? She does get to the line a lot with those drives, but will she be able to find the open players on those drives to the basket? Do you trust the late game offense? Do you trust the depth with a Tahina Paopao or an Isabel Borlace or a Medina Okot or a Sika Kone? And definitely, I've heard Atlanta Dream fans be very critical of pretty much all of those bench players because pretty much all of them come with their pros and cons. Borlace is interesting because Borlace has like pretty good rim pressure. Unfortunately, the defense is really bad from Borlace. So that's something to worry about there. And then even though their defense is good and can have stretches where they just shut you off, it's interesting that they also have the worst opponent effective field goal percentage in that although they turn you over a lot, they're actually not the best team at forcing stops. And so they also allow the highest field goal percentage and 3-point percentage. So I don't. That's an interesting conundrum, especially because you see some elite defenders on the team. You also do see sometimes those defenders can gamble on defense because forcing the most turnovers per game can also have negative effects in that if you go for a steal and miss, you're compromising the defense with 5-on-4. And then also, I think they are one of the worst rim finishing teams as well. So there also has been noise about maybe some players should shoot more mid ranges. Their mid range percentage is also not good, but maybe you could also attribute some of that to low volume. Basically, their 2 point scoring opportunities has just not been there. So that's also just an issue. And so offense, first chance offense, late game offense, that is something of definite concern for the Atlanta Dream. Now, the New York Liberty. The New York Liberty have definitely been through some ups and downs this season. What are some of the ups? They have Brianna Stewart. I don't know. Stewie, it's kind of been crazy that the three ball has the three ball is just gone for Stewie, although is it coming back? Recent games? I don't know. I think the three ball, most of the season, the three ball has just not been there. So Stewie has just been uber predicated on being a 2 point scorer and drawing fouls, and she's been really, really good at that. And then also just defensively. Brianna Stewart, amazing defensively. Also one of the players with a DPOY argument. She's awesome at just being a free safety, covering up the holes in the defense, elite help. She's been awesome, especially so when she's been deployed at the top of the zone that Krista Marco likes to run. The zone is also a really good element that the Liberty can throw in there. It's been a really good, like, chaotic, a bit of chaos that the Liberty can throw in there. They also just have, they just have a lot of talent. They have Sabrina Ionescu. They have Jonquel Jones. They have Leonie Phoebus. They have Pauline Astier. They have Marine Johannes. And so, and maybe even if like some fans have been not too happy about some of the shots that Johannes can take or does take, I still think that certain teams would be lucky to have that amount of talent on their team, that level of potential shot making. They are third in true shooting, so they put ball in basket. They are fifth in offensive rating, and even still, the idea of having a Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, Satu Sabui on the court playing together is just it's a, you can never count that out. You can never count that idea out. However, that also does go into their cons. Health. They have throughout the season just have a lot of players in and out of the lineup. I'm not sure if you love the amount of continuity that the certain lineups and that they've been able to throw out there. So health was kind of one of the things that you worried about in terms of last year for the Liberty, and then they ended up getting round one. I'm not saying it's going to happen again, but it is something to worry about. Still, though, that they do have the talent that it's just like at the end of the day, it might not really matter. They also can have an issue, and I think we saw this last year. We can maybe see it this year. They can kind of maybe play down to their competition. They can sometimes find themselves in dogfights of games where you're just like, should you really be in a close game versus this team? And so there's always the element of just worry about not being, I'm not sure if not being ready, but just not being there mentally. No, that's not even it either. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but they can struggle with just playing to the level that they can play at and not playing down. I don't know. This is bad. Good stuff, me. Also, though, because Chris DeMarco is a first time head coach, how much do you trust him in a playoff setting where in the playoffs, 7 game series, 5 game series, 3 game series, you're going to go up against a Becky Hammond or a Cheryl Reeve or a Natalie Nakase? How much do you trust Chris DeMarco to make adjustments, figure out lineups? I think you do see some good stuff with the X's and O's, and I think the zone is probably the best indication of that. The 3 point shooting can also just be really, really good. Still, though, how much do you trust that? Benigel Laney Hamilton, Liberty fans were very vocal about her getting a lot of DNPs. How much of that is the coach? How much of that is Benigel Laney Hamilton maybe just being decimated due to injuries and not being the same player? Also, the backcourt defense, just because if you're going to play a lot of minutes of like Astier or Sabrina or Johannes, how much can that backcourt defensively be saved, or can they lock in, or how much can it hold up defensively with maybe players wanting to go at them consistently, so in a playoff setting where they want a mismatch attack. And then lastly, they're maybe not a contender, but Washington is probably going to make the playoffs. Oh my gosh, I need water. There wasn't enough in there, man. Oh gosh. Whatever, that'll have to do for now. Washington, they are oh my gosh. Am I fine? I'm fine, I think. Washington, even though they're maybe not a contender, they're always just in close games. Full stop. They're finding themselves in close games against teams that are worse than them, against teams that are better than them. And so being able to play up to their competition is really good because they have wins against all the teams that I've mentioned, or all the playoff teams, except for the Dallas Wings. So they've shown that they are able to compete with these teams that are higher in the standings, that are maybe more so contenders. Because of that, they are a really good threat and a team to watch out for. Maybe. I don't know. Part of the reason is that they are third in defensive rating behind the Valkyries and the Lynx. And so, like I said, the people smarter than me are saying that the Valks and the Lynx are all-time defenses, and the Mystics aren't quite at that level. But the Mystics are a really good defense, and they have really good pieces to show for it. But also, they are second in offensive rebounding rate, which makes sense with the bigs that they have. Shakira Austin, Kiki Iriafin. They are really, really good. Oh my gosh. They have, I can't talk. They are really good glass cleaners, and they also, to show for it, Kiki, Shakira, Lauren Betts, and Mikhail Onyenwere average at least over one offensive rebound per game. Oh gosh, bro. But it also helps because, like I said, they are in a bunch of close games, and they have shown that they can be a really good clutch time team with the wins that they have against the playoff teams. Part of what helps that is probably that they lead the league in free throw rate. Sonia Citron averages over 6 free throws a game. Shakira Austin averages 5.5, and Kiki Iriafin about 5. So getting to the line is good for overall offense and clutch time offense. But part of that can also be mitigated by the fact that they are the worst team at holding onto the basketball. They turn the ball over a lot. They lead the league in turnover percentage. They do not respect the turnover economy. Straight up. I know Jay Felt, he cries so much. Cries tears of, oh my gosh, I can't. I know Jay Felt sheds a tear every time the Mystics turn over the ball and just do not respect the turnover economy. I know he's crying. I'm sorry, big man. And this is also maybe mitigated by the fact that they are one of the best offensive rebounding teams, is that they have the second worst offensive rating. They are second to last in true shooting percentage and effective field goal percentage. So you worry just about, so the rebounding helps, but this is also a team that you worry about putting ball in hoop. And then lastly, point guard play specifically, because Georgia Amore at times looking like I think she is getting better, but you still do question like where she is right now as a point guard. Alicia Flores can bring really good stuff as a floor general, but also can't shoot the basketball, so you do worry there. They have Rory Harmon, so the point guard play is definitely an area that's like, not too sure right now. Still, though, I mean, they're probably not a contender, but they're a team that can definitely force some close games in a probable 1-8 matchup. That's probably going to be the matchup, probably. Unless the Liberty continue to slide, which is like, come on, man, don't do that. Liberty, we're watching you. We can see you. Do not dare. Do not dare disappoint. But yeah, that's about it. These are the contenders. These are the playoff teams, contending playoff teams. I don't know, man. Yeah, these are the contenders in the league. This is the state of contenders in the WNBA right now. This is very, very exciting time. That's about it. How do I end this video?